All right. Chef Matt Curry here with Chef Curry Cuisine. Why don't you?
I got to try. It's Chef Curry's Cuisine.
Chef Curry's
'Cause somehow
Cuisine.
in my email address, everybody forgets the S.
Okay.
If the name of my business were Chef Curry Cuisine,
Yeah.
everybody thinks I cook Indian food.
Chef Curry's Cuisine. Okay, so there's an apostrophe S in there that's
Yes.
important. See, I missed that. I'm glad that you said that. And then, so why don't you just give us your elevator pitch of kind of like what you do, your services that you provide, and what you do for people.
So one of the line that I've had since the beginning is I answer the question that every working family has every single night of the week. What's for dinner?
Yes.
Because everybody's working, you're running around, you've got kids, you got to take to events, you're doing errands, you come home, you're just like, oh, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
What are we going to eat?
Yeah.
Let's order something in.
Yeah.
We'll hate it, eat half and throw the rest away. How does
Yeah.
that sound?
Yeah.
All too familiar.
Yeah. Or it's like incredibly unhealthy.
Yep.
It's fast and cheap and it's just not good.
That's another soapbox.
Yeah.
Is
We'll get there.
Yep, cool.
We'll get there for sure. And then how long have you been in business?
So I graduated culinary school at the end of 2013, and I've been doing this ever since then.
Okay.
My goal is to never work in anybody else's restaurant.
Okay. I was going to ask about that. Have you ever worked in another kitchen situation?
My last quarter of culinary school, I had to do a management externship, so I worked the entire 2013 football season at Mile High.
Oh,
And it was a
gosh.
great experience,
Okay.
great leadership, great energy during the games.
Yeah.
That's the year that the Broncos went to the Super Bowl and
Yeah.
lost to the Seahawks.
Okay.
So I got to play at the NFC Championship game,
That's
or
cool.
sorry, the AFC Championship game.
That's
so it's
cool.
great experience, but I knew by like week 6, I need to do my own thing.
Yeah.
These are great people, but this is not worth it.
Yeah. What specifically was it about that?
It's the hours and the stress.
Okay.
As everybody's learning about with the Bear winning a bunch of awards, that show is too accurate for us chefs. It's like that kind of working environment where it's high pressure, everybody's screaming at each other.
Oh.
Plus, another thing I've heard confirmed from other chefs in the city is everybody that works in a restaurant has a story about either somebody trying to buy cocaine from them or sell them cocaine or trade shifts.
Okay.
So it's a terrible environment and it's not worth it.
It doesn't seem like a very healthy lifestyle either.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And Anthony Bourdain is the perfect example of that. Like he got to travel around, work, talk to cool people.
Yeah.
But
Still.
it grinds you down.
Yeah. That's interesting. Why are they like that? Why are they so?
It's the kind of the way the environment works. It's high stress, and I heard it put best is when you're working as a chef, you're serving everybody else.
Okay.
And when it comes time for you to be served, there's nobody available. And as I've heard, the only thing open when you're done is bars and after parties.
Yeah. Fast food.
So it's a lot of alcoholics just they kind of drawn to each other.
Yeah. Anytime, I experience that a little bit after like a really long shoot or something. You kind of like feel like after you've been through a long work day, a long stressful work day, you kind of feel like you deserve to treat yourself.
Yep.
And then you're out there and it's late at night and there's nowhere to like go that's like a healthy thing to do. And so you're just like, I'm just going to get fast food
Yep.
or I'm just going to go to a bar. I'm just going to go get a drink. It's all the unhealthy things that are open that late at night.
Exactly.
When you're like rewarding yourself for a long day of work. So that makes a lot of sense.
Totally true.
Yeah. So, and then, so you grew up in like Montana and North Dakota. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Kind of, sort of. So my mom was only 16 when I was born.
Oh, wow.
And never met or wanted to meet my biological father.
Okay.
So because of that, I spent about half my childhood with my grandparents. My grandmother was an amazing cook.
Okay.
Nothing fancy. It was all like home, like farm food.
Okay.
But I've always said that there's no scientific explanation for it. I can't describe it, but I know for a fact that you can cook love into food because I've experienced it.
Oh.
And I've said if I can ever reach the point where I'm cooking 10% of the love into my food that my grandmother did, that's it. I'm retiring. That's as good as it's ever going to get.
Oh, that's cute.
So I was in a discussion about that recently. Like there's no scientific explanation for it, but something about the energy.
Okay.
You can just taste the difference.
Yeah. Can you elaborate? Is it just the care and attention put into it?
I think it is. It's another story I have is, so back after I graduated culinary school, about 2015, I was driving around doing some small business networking, and I remember I'd forgotten lunch. It's like, oh man, I forgot lunch. What am I? Oh hey, Burger King. I used to always go to Burger King. Yeah, I'll go there. I got my usual that I used to get, like a chicken sandwich, and I remember like this food tastes like sadness. Like, why am I getting depressed when I'm eating this food?
Yeah.
And that it's something about the energy.
Yeah. And the quality.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as I said it yesterday in a discussion, you could have 2 meals cooked by somebody who cares and somebody who just doesn't, and you can taste it. It's intangible, but it's there.
Yeah, and the care goes all the way back to probably even just like the choice of ingredients.
Ooh, that's probably true, yeah.
If they care when they're making it, they cared when they purchased the ingredients, or if it was on a farm, probably a lot of the ingredients were there, right?
Yep.
So was she using a lot of the things from the farm that you guys grew?
No, she had we grew up in a very small town. They'd moved away from the farm by the time
Okay.
I was with them. And on a side note, she had a garden my whole life. And people don't understand what vegetables are supposed to taste like.
Yeah. They actually have flavor if you like grow them
Yes.
yourself. They
Like
actually have a real flavor.
A fresh picked tomato has a flavor that's unlike what you see.
I'll
in the
eat a
grocery-
fresh picked tomato by itself.
Yep.
Just pour a little bit of salt on it, and I'll just eat the whole
Yep,
thing.
those are delicious.
Yeah. But not from the store. I'm not doing it from the
No.
store. But if I get one that someone grew in their backyard, for sure.
Side note, this is something I learned from my mentor in culinary school. The best tomatoes that you're going to find are the ones that are in a can.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're more cost efficient for the farmers to sell them in a can. So the best tomatoes are canned.
Okay.
The second best tomatoes are the ones on the shelf, and the worst tomatoes go into ketchup. Because they're getting paired with so many other ingredients.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They're being masked with sugar, right?
Yep.
So
I use canned tomatoes a lot.
Oh,
just because of that. Like,
Okay.
in fact,
they do that on the bear a lot too. I've
Yep.
started watching it. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. So, okay, that's interesting. I did not realize that.
I've got a ton of random food knowledge like that I picked up in culinary school.
Nice.
It's like, oh, I didn't know that. It's like, no, you wouldn't.
I want to pick your brain then. So
Nice, fair enough.
Yeah. So tell me more about your grandmother. What would you guys cook together, and what did she teach you in the kitchen?
She taught me the value of service. One of the things my instructors in culinary school talked about is I have what's called a service heart, where I'm fulfilled by providing service to others. And I definitely got that from my grandmother. I remember growing up, no matter who you were, when you walked into her house, first thing she'd ask you is, hey, have you eaten anything today? And I didn't realize until I probably went to culinary school how much of an act of love that was. Because she was born in 1929, so grew up, yes, she was a child during the Depression, but it was still a time of scarcity. So by offering somebody food, that was a true act of love.
And sacrifice.
Yeah, because you might not have eaten that day. And for her, offering that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And she also had, something else I live by is when she served you food, if you left her house hungry, that was not her fault. That's on you.
There's always plenty.
Yep. If you leave hungry, that's on you.
Yeah.
And that's something I've tried to emulate over the years.
Was there a special dish that she used to make that?
Not really. There was nothing in particular. She loved baking pies.
Okay.
I did not inherit that from her because I learned in culinary school pies are too much work for the reward.
Okay.
I have an aunt that still, but what I did inherit from her was her love of baking bread. She baked bread all the time, and I love it.
Yeah.
I cannot.
A nice sourdough.
Not sourdough, just the most basic bread. I remember I learned in culinary school, it's what's called a lean dough, which is what baguettes are made out of.
Okay.
It's just 4 ingredients. It's flour, salt, yeast, and water. And I remember I took the artisan breads class in culinary school from my mentor, and he had us do an experiment where we took one slice of bread, but type of bread, like a baguette, from 2 different locations and compare them. So I got the baguette at Safeway, which was terrible. And then there was, at the time I was living down south, so there's a really cool bakery in Parker called La Baguette de Normandy. And I remember, first of all, the guy who runs the place, if you called a Hollywood casting agency and asked for a French baker, it would look and sound exactly like that guy. But I remember I got his baguette. I remember smelling it. It smelled exact. I had this great sense memory of smelling exactly like my grandmother's bread because it's just those 4 ingredients.
So what is Safeway doing to their baguettes?
They're getting them made in a factory,
Okay.
and then when they get cooked on site, and when you do
It's just not fresh.
No, and just there's no care involved in it. And when you cook a baguette, part of the technique is that you do what's called a slash, because you build the dough and you kind of tie it together on the back side. So you need to slash the front of the dough in order to keep it from breaking in the back. Okay. I could tell their slashes were just textbook terrible. They were super thin, not where they were supposed to be. It's like, and the bread fell apart.
Gotcha.
And it was like, obvious, like this is what I was talking about with the care involved. Like you can tell.
Just wasn't made with love.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I cannot buy bread from the grocery store because it creeps me out.
Okay.
Because it's zombie bread.
Yeah.
If you're this is another thing I've said since the beginning of my chef service is if bacteria and mold don't want to eat your food, why do you want to eat your food?
Ooh, I've never thought about that.
Yeah, because food does not go bad, it's not food anymore.
Yeah, you know what? I have thought about that now that I think about it. My kids left a box of cereal open overnight, and I went and just tasted it, the next morning. I was like, is this stale? Is this bad? And it was like, it wasn't really stale. It was just, it tasted the exact same. I was like, they left this open all night and it's still not, what is this?
Yep.
What is this?
Exactly.
It's not food.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
There's people who've done experiments where they took like a value meal from 3 different fast food restaurants, took a picture of it, put it on a shelf, and then 5 years later, they took a picture of the food that hadn't been touched, and it didn't look any different.
Whoa.
Like why? How? What's going? Like what? I don't get it.
Just so much preservatives pumped into it.
And something I've heard recently is, it's not that your food goes bad. It's that what happens is something else starts eating your food before you do. And that's good.
That's okay.
I want that. Like when I bake bread, if I can make my mouth work, if I bake bread at home, I know I've got 3 or 4 days before it starts to get stale.
Okay.
And 6 or 7 before it starts to get moldy.
Okay.
And I want that. I want my food to be able to go bad.
Okay.
Because that means that it's
How
still
long do you
actual
say
food.
before it starts to go stale?
Usually 2 or 3 days, maybe 3 or 4.
Okay.
Because another tip for everybody listening is you do not want to put bread in the fridge.
Okay.
Because if you put bread in the fridge, that'll cause it to go stale faster. So if you just leave it out and eat it in a reasonable amount of time, it'll stay more fresh.
Keep it covered. Keep it wrapped.
Yep, keep it wrapped,
Okay.
especially in Colorado.
Okay.
Because our humidity's so low here.
Okay.
I've noticed, that's another thing we did in culinary school, is whenever you're making bread, you always have to keep it covered during the proofing process because it will dry out.
Okay. Yeah, great tips, man. I'm learning so much.
Yep.
And also, I want to go make bread right now.
Yep.
Excuse me. After high school, you said you went to college one year and kind of discovered
Yes.
not for you, right?
No, it's not that it wasn't for me. It's that when I graduated high school, I had 0 personality. No personality.
I find that hard to believe.
Oh, you would not. It's easy to believe for me,
Okay.
but for other people, it was so boring. And went to college and pretty much spent that year of college at North Dakota State University, pretty much just partying and drinking.
Okay.
But
Developing a personality.
I developed 25% of a personality in college.
Okay. That's enough to get by.
Yep, and for the first time, because I was the good boy in high school, didn't really get into trouble, didn't really go out and drink.
Okay.
But I should have, because you get that out of your system then. Because in small towns, in rural areas, there's nothing to do.
Yeah. I grew up in a small town in Texas,
Yep.
so.
There's only 2 things to do. There's drinking and doing the thing that makes babies,
Okay.
which often gets people stuck in small towns,
Yeah.
which I'm glad didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. Got out at least.
And then went to Fargo, and what I tell everybody is when you grow up in super small towns, you get drawn to the big city. And in North Dakota, Fargo's the big city. It's like, oh, wow, they have a mall there?
Yeah.
Holy cow, that's amazing.
Buildings.
Yeah, they have buildings over 3 stories.
Restaurants?
Yeah,
It's
I
not
know.
like a Chili's, yeah.
The Chili's is like the fancy spot.
Okay.
Well, actually, Fridays is the fancy spot
Okay.
in Fargo.
Gotcha. TGI Fridays.
Yep. So then you get drawn to the big city, and then you spend a few years in Fargo, take some trips to Minneapolis and Chicago.
You're
Like,
like,
wait a minute, this is not the big city at all. So then eventually got drawn to Vegas,
Oh, wow.
because I've always been a poker player, and I spent a year in Vegas playing poker.
Okay. How'd that go?
I was never homeless, and I never starved to death, so I did okay.
Probably a win. That's
Yep.
better than most people.
But being a poker player is super stressful.
Yeah, it's not a healthy lifestyle.
In the words of the best poker player who's ever lived, poker is a hard way to make an easy living.
That's good. Who's the best Doyle Brunson?
Doyle Brunson, yep.
Yeah.
He's the one who said that. So then I moved over Memorial Day of '04, I moved here to Denver
Okay.
to give it a shot with an ex-girlfriend who later thankfully became an ex-wife.
Okay. All right, we don't have to touch that.
Oh,
Story.
no. It's funny because when I talk about my ex-wife, I can tend to sound bitter,
Yeah.
but I'm not.
Okay.
It's a funny cliche, so I like to play on that.
Yeah.
But everybody needs to have that terrible relationship. It's like, oh, that's not how it works. Oh, okay, that's not how human relationships work. Okay, I get it now.
It's good to experience that.
Yes.
It's painful, but
Yep,
it's good.
everybody should have a bad marriage. just get it out of the way. Just knock it out. It's like, okay,
I've had bad days in my marriage, but which I think is probably
that's also
that's
important.
good. That's probably fine because it makes you appreciate the good days and
Nice.
and
That's
you
awesome.
can work through it. Yeah. So, been married 15 years now.
Oh,
So.
congratulations.
Thanks, man. So in 2009, can we fast forward a little bit?
Okay, sure, yep.
2009. So you told me something a little bit about 2009. Wasn't sure if you want to talk about that.
Oh yes, love to. This
Okay, cool.
This explains everything you need
Sure.
to know
This
about
is kind
me
of
in
the
every facet.
nexus of your life.
Yep.
The turning point, huh?
Yep. So on May 31st of 2009, an aneurysm ruptured in the right frontal lobe of my brain. Easily, not even close, the best thing that's ever happened to me.
That's a wild statement.
Yep. The company that I was with provided disability insurance to all their employees, so I've been getting $2,000 a month in disability benefits since the aneurysm. Plus, once I got hooked up with Social Security Disability, I discovered they have a program called Vocational Rehabilitation.
What was it called?
Vocational Rehabilitation.
Okay.
And their primary focus is helping people who become disabled get back to work,
Okay.
usually by paying for us to get higher education. So you pay for a bachelor's degree at culinary school in full.
Wow.
Since the only culinary schools here in the city at the time were the private for-profit schools, I went to the Art Institute of Colorado, where a bachelor's degree was about $100,000, paid in full.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yep.
So back up just a little bit because
Sure.
what made you want to go? How long did the aneurysm take you out? And then talk to me about the process of deciding to go to culinary school.
Okay, so the aneurysm happened on May 31st of 2009. And what's crazy is I was put into a medically induced coma, and the drug they use to put you into the coma is called propofol. And they call that milk of amnesia because it's got this milky white substance, and it kind of wipes out your memory. So from May 31st until about July 2nd is gone.
Wow. So like a whole month.
A whole month. Only 2 weeks of that was I in the medically induced coma. So for about 2 weeks, I was I was doing rehab, I was interacting with people, but I had no self-awareness, which is super crazy.
That is weird.
Yep.
It's scary.
It's scary, but it was necessary, and I am way better off than I should be. For people who suffer an aneurysm, I had to do a research speech in culinary school. So I did research into people who suffered aneurysms. If I can make my mouth work again. So of people who suffer an aneurysm, 1/3 die before an ambulance ever arrives.
Yeah.
1/3 die on the way to the hospital receiving treatment. And of the 1/3 that receive treatment and survive, 1/3 of them have serious mental deficiencies. So I am in the 20% of people who suffer an aneurysm and are okay. Let alone, I'm better off than I was 15 years ago.
How do you say you're better off?
I have a better personality. I have a better sense of humor. I don't know how else to put it other than 15 years ago, I sucked. Like I was not a good person. The best example I can give that I've noticed is what drives me insane these days is if you're at the grocery store and you see a shopping cart just left in a parking spot.
Yeah.
Like what? It's right there.
It's the worst.
How could you not? And I would have done that 15 years ago.
Okay.
And the answer I give for why is I am a textbook case of nature versus nurture. I had great nurturing growing up, but in a lot of ways I reverted to my nature because my biological father is a piece of beep, and I've had to fight that.
It's half of you, yeah.
Yep. So I've had to fight that my whole life, and the aneurysm really allowed me to embrace what I learned growing up, and embrace who I'm supposed to be. Because I highly recommend almost dying to everybody.
So have a bad marriage.
Have a bad marriage.
And almost die.
Have some bad things happen and come out of it and realize, wait a minute, I've been given a gift.
Yeah.
And that's what my aneurysm was. It was a gift. Because I should be dead. I got to do my rehab at Craig Hospital over in Inglewood, which is far and away the best hospital in the country that you can rehab from a brain or spinal cord injury. And I am very lucky because only about 1% of their patients are non-traumatic brain injuries.
Okay.
Because on a scale of 1 to 10, like all brain injuries are serious.
Yeah.
But mine really wasn't.
Okay.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I say mine was like a 0.1, 0.05.
That's probably not true. I mean, aneurysms are pretty serious, but I understand what you mean.
Yep.
Out of all the traumatic brain, injuries, yours is on the lower scale.
Yes.
Not as serious.
Yep, not as serious. When I was at Craig, I was doing rehab with people, and I couldn't figure out why am I so much better off than all the people I'm doing rehab with.
Yeah.
And I realized, it's because I suffered a non-traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Well, they suffered real brain injuries where their They had bruises.
You recognized that while you were in the hospital still?
Yeah, toward the tail end of when I was in the
Because
hospital.
you're up walking around doing, and they're just like most of them vegetables or paralyzed.
Yep,
Or,
there are people my age who are now probably in their 40s who will forever have the intellect of a child, all because they suffered a traumatic brain injury.
Wow.
And
So you really did get off very lucky.
yes.
Yeah. So, so you go to culinary school, and how was that experience? I mean, did you feel like you learned a ton, or?
Yes,
Okay.
I got super lucky because at the time, like, higher education is all about your instructors, and I had great instructors all the way through.
Okay.
Like I said, I had a mentor that I glommed onto that I took a couple classes from.
Okay.
And actually, side note, he's the one who got me to being a personal chef. Because in my last year of culinary school, he did a seminar on being a personal chef because he had done it himself.
Okay.
It's like, okay. And he did the seminar. I was like, this is what I have to do.
So you came away from that seminar just knowing exactly that you wanted to be a personal chef.
Yep.
Okay.
I knew like this. I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit. Even in my 20s, when I was wasting my life, I had thought of entrepreneurial ideas, but it wasn't until this opportunity came along. It's like, okay, this is what I need to do.
Yeah. Well, you knew you didn't want to work in a traditional kitchen because you had
Yep.
already had that experience. And so then this is presented to you. You're like, this is perfect for me, for my personality, for my entrepreneurial spirit.
Exactly.
This is going to fit perfect.
And more importantly, I can actually make a difference for people because that's something that's, like I said, the service, being able to improve people's lives. Because as we've already, like the food we eat, that is so much of a soapbox for me. It's just like
Well, go off on it then.
we've learned so much about the gut-brain connection in the last 5 years, and we've just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
We're 50 years from now, I guarantee you, nobody will understand. How did you guys eat that stuff out of a box? Like what? The same way now we look at the Olestra era. It's like, how were you eating food that did that to your body?
Yeah.
We'll be looking at that in 50 years. Like, how are you eating processed foods? Like, what was going on?
Yeah. I mean, you could just look around at society and just know that something's wrong.
Yep, there are diseases and things like mental diseases and physical diseases that didn't exist 70 years ago.
You're right.
And it's because of the food. And another soapbox is gluten. Gluten is not a problem. Humans have been eating wheat since the dawn of human civilization.
Okay.
But it's not until the last 100 years that we've started. I think the main culprit is glyphosate, which is the primary ingredient in Roundup.
Okay.
They use that. It was banned in Europe. Europe is doing a test right now where they're unbanning it and doing a full scientific study on it.
Okay.
So I think that's
They're
gonna
way
be
ahead
enlightening.
on all that stuff. They ban a lot of stuff that,
Yep.
that we don't here in the States. So they're way ahead of it on,
So
all that.
I'm very interested to see because they're doing a 5-year scientific study on the effects of Roundup on their citizens. I think that's going to be very enlightening because it's already listed as a carcinogenic, cancer-causing ingredient.
Yeah.
And
Do you think if they find out that it is bad and they confirm that we will do anything in our country about it? Or do you think it's too late?
I wish we would, but I don't think we will. That's a whole other conversation for a whole different podcast.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll have you back again to do that.
Fair enough.
So you talked a lot about just like how nourishment is important, good nutrients, clean eating is important. How do you coach like families? I mean, so talk to me a little bit more about your business and the actual like nuts and bolts of it. How are you coaching families on what they should be eating and the meals that you're making for them?
The main thing, I preach the same thing I've already talked about, is just eating real food.
Yeah.
Because I recently read a scientific study where they talked about how you cannot be healthy or even happy if you're not eating real food cooked from scratch. Because there are ingredients in the processed food that activate bacteria in our gut that create hormones that cause depression. So, and people are learning a lot about gut health, and eating real food promotes that. Because there's so much that's stripped out of food to keep it shelf stable.
Yeah.
And part of my thing is care about your ingredients, care about your food. And I before you even ask, I'm not a proponent of organic. I think organic is fine if you want to go that way, but I think it's somewhat of an overreaction.
Okay.
Because it's moving too far. Because if you as long as you're washing your vegetables, you're getting most of the contaminants off it, and cooking it is going to take care of that as well.
Okay. So those two things together, you're probably fine.
You're probably fine, yeah.
Non-organic,
If you,
Are there any specific foods that you do buy organic?
not really, I don't have to go that way. Most vegetables, like I say, as long as you're washing them, they're fine.
Okay.
And also for the people at home, don't wash your poultry. Like there's so many articles on that. Everything's like,
I saw that online the other day. Someone cooked chicken, and all the comments were like, "I can't believe you didn't wash it." And I was like, "You're supposed to wash your chicken?"
no, just cook it
cook
to
it.
165 final resting temperature.
Okay.
That's the only way to get rid of the salmonella.
Okay.
Because all chicken in America has salmonella.
Yeah.
Just cook it all the way through. You're fine.
Why does all chicken have salmonella?
It's just it's part of it is how we grow our chickens here, and part of it is just all chicken has salmonella.
Okay.
So it's just one of those things that it just needs to be cooked out.
Yeah.
Because chicken is one of the few meats that cannot be eaten raw. Like in America, beef is fine, fish is fine.
Yeah.
Beef is fine.
Not ground beef, though.
Not ground beef, because
Yeah.
ground beef has too many
You're just mixing
too many
it.
bacteria.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's so soapbox issue again.
That's what we're here for, man. Just talking. Yeah.
Yep. Because like the way our food is processed, like you hear so much about cross contamination in food,
Yeah.
and that's another big problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a problem in small kitchens too, right? You can't
Yep.
cross-contaminate, but it's also in these big factory kitchens
Exactly.
where they're food factories where they're making most of our food that we're buying.
Yep.
You've mentioned a couple times about your entrepreneurial spirit. What do you feel like makes you a good entrepreneur?
What makes me a good entrepreneur is I've always been a problem solver. I've realized since I've become an entrepreneur, I am not an ideas guy. Not at all. I will not come up with a new idea, but in the words of easily the worst poet of our time, if you got a problem, you'll all solve it. Check out the hook while the DJ revolves
Okay,
it.
I mean, he's pretty good.
Come on. Really?
I mean,
Come on.
whatever. No,
Come on.
it's a very short-lived career, but
Yes.
I enjoyed it when I was a kid. So
We
I'll
all
say
did, but we were kids. We didn't know any better.
that. I had good taste as a kid. I don't know. I hope he makes a comeback. We're talking about Vanilla Ice for
Yes.
those who went over their head, for the youngsters out there. Yeah, so then you started your business in 2013, right?
Actually, 2012. I started even
2012, okay.
before I graduated culinary school.
Uh-huh.
I had started the chef service.
And what mistakes do you feel like you made early on when you first started?
The biggest mistake I've made easily is I didn't realize when advertising is correct. I've wasted so much money in advertising, not realizing there was way more value in just getting to know people and getting your message out there.
Yeah.
The word of mouth is so valuable, and just getting to know people and the why also. It took me a little while to find my why, realizing
Like you knew it intrinsically, but it took you a while to figure out the messaging and how
Yep.
to communicate that to people.
how to get out that I want,
hard.
because one of the things I've said since the beginning is it's great if I cook your food. I'd love to be able to cook your food. But if I can help you get to the point where you're cooking your own food, that's great. I'm fulfilled.
Yeah.
I've heard the term a big, hairy, audacious goal, and my bag is to change the way that America eats, to get people back to eating real food.
Sort of one family at a time, huh?
Yep, that's the goal, because that's how it has to be done.
Yeah. So you're cooking meals for people. How do they communicate what they want to you, and then how do you prepare that for them and deliver it? Can you just walk us through kind of the nuts and bolts of it?
Yep. So say somebody wants to start with a chef service. They'll send me an email, and then I will respond with about 80 recipes that I
wow.
have currently built.
Okay.
They all follow the basic tenets of the Mediterranean diet, eating good meats, have some good balance of vegetables,
Okay.
as few added sugars as possible. And also what's important to me is all of my recipes pull from the Mediterranean diet, but they follow cultures all around the world. Because I'm a big believer in food being a uniter of people. One of my favorite stand-up comedians has a great line. He says, how can anybody possibly eat a good New York-style bagel with lox and a schmear and afterwards hate Jewish people? It's like, that doesn't make any, how can you do that?
This people created this. It's delicious.
Yeah, and so if you eat from cultures all around the world, you're going to have more respect for those cultures.
Okay.
And food is a uniter of people. I will say that.
Yeah.
I notice that I do a lot of cooking demos at luxury apartment buildings. And those are my favorite because you have a group of people all creating and
diverse,
eating
huh?
food, and they're all talking. And I love that because you have people who normally they'd pass each other in the hallway.
Yeah.
But now next time they see each other, it's like, hey, I remember you from the sushi demo.
Yeah.
So you connect. Food is a great way to connect.
I agree.
Because in our modern age, so many meals you eat by yourself, you're at your desk, you're eating on your own. And food, for the first few thousand years of human civilization, food was a communal experience. And it should be.
Yeah.
Because I read an article.
How it was at your grandmother's.
Yes, exactly. Because I read an article a few years ago from the Washington Post. It was a family therapist who said, now this is not true in all cases, but if you think you need to seek family therapy, you probably don't. Just eat your family meals together, have conversations, have those interactions, and you'll notice a huge change.
Yeah.
Because my happy place is, I wasn't necessarily eating meal around a table, but my happy place is sitting on my grandparents' couch, eating dinner off a TV tray, and watching Looney Tunes.
Okay.
Because we used to do that. It was on Nickelodeon every evening at about 6:30 Mountain, and I remember my grandpa laughing his butt off at the
That's so
Roadrunner
good.
cartoons.
Yeah.
And like at his funeral in 2009, I talked about that. Like that is my memory of him. And there's so many family memories that are built around food that if you can build that up early on, it's going to make a huge difference.
So what you're doing, because obviously families are just too busy,
Yep.
right? We have too much going on. We're trying to squeeze too much out of a single day.
Yep.
And we don't have the food is it the first thing that pretty much goes? Because
Yes.
it's time consuming, right?
Yep.
It's time consuming to plan out a meal, to go grocery shopping, buy the food, bring it home, prep it, cook it, plate it. It's just like it's almost a full-time job. It is a full-time job.
It is, yeah. But if you're missing any one of these three things, if you don't have the time or the ability or the simple desire to cook your own food.
Or the know-how, too. A lot of people just don't know.
Yeah, that's a good, I got to add that to the list. Good point.
There you go.
Because if you're missing any one of those three things, it's too easy to say, you know what, we're just going to order something in.
Yeah, my wife has become a pretty good cook, but like she grew up and they just ate, just boxed meals, you know what I mean? Like no one cooked in her house.
Yep.
She'd come home from school and there's just like, just boxed snacks, you know what I mean? Pre-made food.
Mm-hmm.
There was never any fresh ingredients. So she's vegan now and or borderline, and she's vegetarian for sure. She eats a little fish, but
Pescatarian.
yeah, fish and eggs are kind of her protein. So, but she eats super healthy. I mean,
Nice.
she eats like a zucchini and 2 eggs for breakfast every single morning.
Awesome.
That's her go-to, which is disgusting to me.
Oh,
But
come on.
I can't do zucchini. I'll eat almost every vegetable except like zucchini. It's the squishy ones in the middle. Eggplant or
Throw some lemon in there, you'll be good.
lemon.
Lemon and zucchini are a natural pairing.
Oh, okay. All right. Psh, writing that down. Well, I'll try it because I'll try anything because she always makes it. I just never want to eat it. So artichoke hearts, I don't do artichoke either. She loves them. Canned. She buys them canned.
You're breaking my heart, man. You're
I'm
breaking
sorry.
my heart.
I'm sorry. You know what? My palate has changed over the years, and so that's one of the things. Like I'm hopeful that it will change in that direction. But I mean, I grew up on like chicken tenders and ribeyes, you know, and burgers. So
If you want to get introduced to artichoke hearts, try it on pizza, especially a white pizza. That is a fantastic pairing.
Okay. I want to get some more tips from you for like families, and I'll just use my own family as an example. Like getting my kids to like try new foods. It is like the hardest thing in the world to just get them just to try it and eat what we make. So oftentimes it's just like, just try it. And if you don't like it, I'll make you a peanut butter jelly sandwich, like whatever. But they just don't, I'll try new things. Like every week almost, I like come up with a new recipe and I'll try different things. And I think it's delicious, but they just like won't even try it.
There's not much I can say. The best tip I have is avoid bitterness at all costs.
Okay.
Because kids, this is a really cool thing I learned, is the younger you are, the more sensitive you are to bitter.
Oh, okay.
And that's because it's an evolutionary trait. Because, as you know, kids, the first thing they do when they see anything is they'll put it in their mouth.
Okay.
And bitter, a lot of poisons in nature are bitter flavored.
Oh.
So it's a natural for children. As you grow older,
Never thought about that.
Yep. As you grow older, your aversion to bitterness goes away.
Okay.
So that's the main thing.
Because you understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then try to find some natural sweetness. You'll find that in carrots. You'll find that in bell peppers.
Okay.
They have any food with natural sugars.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to pair some fruits in with your savory dishes.
Yeah.
That's
kind of our go-to is like strawberries and raspberries on the plate. It's like, well, if you don't eat that, at least you'll eat that.
Yep.
So.
One of my fall dishes is I do a an autumn chicken, where it's some butternut squash, some sweet potatoes,
sounds
but I also
delicious.
throw in some Honeycrisp apples.
Okay.
And it gets paired with either cranberry or a mango lemon sauce.
You got my mouth
Yep,
watering.
it's my job.
All right,
So
chef.
pair with something, and having kids eat real food, the sooner you can do that, the better off they'll be.
Okay.
I've got my
Say that again for me.
The sooner you can get kids to eat real food,
Yeah.
the better off they'll be.
Yeah.
Because they'll grow up eating real food. Because my little brother, he's in his early 30s. He's on the autism spectrum, but he grew up eating like chicken strips off the
Yeah.
kids menu, and it's even now it's tough to get him to eat real food.
Yeah.
So sooner
Yeah.
you can do that, the better.
Okay. Yeah, we try. I mean, my wife and I both eat pretty healthy, like she definitely eats healthier than I do to like almost a boring, level, I think,
Awesome.
where it's just kind of the same things over and over. And she likes what she likes, but it's, just vegetables. And then I eat a lot of I try to eat a lot of meat, lean meat, and then mix in some veggies but man, they, it's hard because they will make stuff for them, and it's like if it has vegetables in it, they're, so I'm like, we'll blend it up. So we're working on it. It's a struggle every day. My oldest, she's 8, and she's gotten a lot better. She'll eat pretty much anything we put on her
Yep.
plate. So I'm hopeful for the younger two as they get older.
It takes a little while, yeah.
It takes a little time. But my middle child we call her our sugary girl because she
Funny.
just wants sugar.
Well, that's another evolutionary trait is when you're young, you need the energy.
Yeah.
So you desire sweets.
Okay. So she'll age out of that,
Yep.
hopefully. Crossing my fingers. So.
Yep.
You said you have 80 recipes for people that you offer?
Yep.
Okay. Is that year round? Do you only do like maybe 30 or 40 per season, or is it?
No, almost all of them are omni-seasonal.
Okay.
And I have a few, like that autumn Mediterranean dish that I talked about. What I will do is that switches out of when it's not autumn. When it's in autumn, it's cranberry sauce.
Okay.
When it's out of autumn, then it's the lemon mango.
Okay.
Because it'll work.
Gotcha.
And I also have a summer Mediterranean chicken vegetable dish
Okay.
that uses more squashes.
Okay.
But even I'm not a fan of that one. 'Cause you can only have so much yellow squash, eggplant, and zucchini in one dish.
Yeah. I would prefer none in my dish, but
Oh.
that's okay.
Yep.
I will eat a little bit. That'd be fine. I'm at a point in my life where I'll try anything. I'll
Nice.
eat it. You put it on my plate, and I'll give it a fair chance.
And I was going to say the way that most of those recipes come up with recipes is somebody will say, "Hey, I want this type of cuisine." I was like, "Okay," and then I'll do some research online and say,
So people suggest things to you, and you do some research and kind of make what people are requesting.
what people are requesting, and also I'll every time I see a recipe online, I'll see a technique. It's like, I know what you're trying to do here, but no, don't do that. Don't.
People trying too hard.
No, it's that like one of the examples is I'll see people say, cut your red bell pepper into strips. It's like, no, always be thinking of the end result. You don't
Okay.
want, because you're going to, eating a strip of red bell pepper is super awkward. Just cut it into small dice.
Okay.
Cut it into bite-sized pieces.
Unless it's for fajitas. You're putting it in a taco. Then you can do strips.
Fair.
I'm asking you. I don't know.
It's totally fair.
Okay.
Because always be thinking of how it's going to look on the fork.
Okay. Oh, that's a good tip.
Yep. Fork friendly is the term my culinary instructor came up with.
So is there like, do you like, hey, I don't want to go over 80 because it's just too many recipes at that point, too, and then it kind of keeps people from, it's debilitating trying to pick one.
I do have them broken down into regions.
Okay.
Well, I'll say here are some Caribbean dishes. Here are some Southeast Asian dishes. It's like I will break it up into that because 80 can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I also want to make sure that you have something that you can find to build the 5 entree menu.
I mean, we have like 10 things that we make in our family. So 80 is would be a dream. So, and then how are you preparing this and delivering it to them?
So what I do is I rent commissary space up in North Denver.
Okay.
And I'll go into the commissary kitchen, cook all the meals at once. Because you mentioned tips for families. The best tip I have is, and this is the secret of the chef service as well, is that it doesn't really take that much more time or effort to cook 4 portions of food, say even 8, than it does 1.
Yeah.
Because when I cook for myself, I'm super lucky because I'm the kind of person I can eat the same meal day after day after day.
So you'll make 5 portions and then
Even
reheat
more
it.
than that.
Okay.
Like, I'll make my standard is when I want to cook for myself, it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down and cook 8 portions of food.
Okay.
That's my lunches and dinners for 4 days.
Wow.
And as long as it's good, I'm cool with that.
Okay. You can eat it for
Yep.
4 days straight.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yep, that's something super lucky.
I thought I was disciplined in that way. I could eat the same thing a couple times, but not for
Oh.
2 meals a day for 4 days straight. That's a lot.
As long as it's good, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, so my tip for families is cook in large batches.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you have to freeze it, frozen food is good for a couple months.
Okay.
You can kind of rotate between them.
a good
And
idea.
despite what you might hear, you don't lose really any nutritional value
Okay.
freezing it.
to know.
Some vegetables can turn to mush when you
Yeah.
freeze them and thaw them. So I'm always conscientious of that, is the
Okay.
texture.
Okay.
Because you want to make sure, I always undercook my vegetables when I cook for customers.
Okay.
Because I know it's going to be reheated, it's going to be sitting in the fridge and freezer.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that the texture doesn't.
And it
doesn't
turns
get
into
bad.
mush because it was cooked all the way through, and then you cook it again when you reheat it, and
Yep.
it's just overcooked.
And then also freezing it can break down some of the cellular structure.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be conscientious of that.
Okay, man, you've thought about it a lot.
Yes. Well, I've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. So then you cook it and prepare it. Are you freezing it and delivering it? Or
No, when I deliver it, it's been refrigerated because you don't want to freeze it and then thaw it and then freeze it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then I always deliver 2 weeks worth of Monday through Friday dinners for household.
Okay.
Half goes in your fridge, half goes in your
10
freezer.
meals, 10 different recipes.
No, 5 recipes.
Okay.
But so say for a couple, it's 4 portions of 5 entrees.
Okay.
So that's 2 meals for Monday, 2 meals for Tuesday. So what you do is
So on.
half the food goes in the fridge, half goes in the freezer.
Okay.
And then so on day 1, you're going to eat meal A out of the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
And you take meal A out of the freezer and put it in the fridge so that they safely thaw.
So you just have a rotate.
Yep.
You just
Then on day
rotate it
2,
out.
you eat meal B, etc. for all 5 meals.
Okay. And are you providing them like a specific order to eat it in, or does it not matter?
You eat it in the order you want.
Whatever,
But
okay.
I do provide safe reheating and food handling instructions.
Nice, okay.
Because you want it, and I'll also give instructions both with and without the microwave.
Okay.
Because some people don't like the microwave. Some people do. Some customers have said, I don't care. I'll just put it on the microwave. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, fine. But on that side note, if you're going to microwave fish, I don't think we can be friends anymore.
Yeah, I'm not microwaving fish. I don't think I've ever microwaved fish. So
Because I've had some customers who said they're just going to microwave their salmon. It's like, okay, it's going to turn into rubber.
Ew.
Don't blame me.
that
It's
kinda
not my
sounds
fault.
gross. Yeah. Can you? How do you price that? You don't have to give specifics, but are you per meal? Is it different per meal because of the cost? Food costs are different.
Actually, part of my experience is I like to make things as easy on the customer as possible. Everybody has, as we've talked about, has so much going on. So I pretty much charge flat rates.
Okay.
So
Are you doing a subscription model?
yes and no.
Okay.
So the base cost of the service, so 2 weeks worth of Monday through Friday dinners for 2, which is 4 portions of 5 entrees. The base cost for that is $350.
Okay.
That's all inclusive. That's groceries. That's the BPA-free microwave and dishwasher safe plastic containers.
Okay.
They get reused.
Are they returning those to you?
Yep. Because that's one of the reasons why I drop off the food. Because when I drop off the last week's meals or the last set of meals, I'll pick up the new containers.
Yeah.
So that way, it's environmentally safe. It's more conscientious.
Yeah, that's great.
And that way, I also want to ask the customers every time, how was the food, and more importantly, what could be better?
Okay.
Because as we all know,
Do you get feedback every 2 weeks?
Yep.
Wow.
As we all know, every chef is an egomaniac, so we all know our food's amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to know what could be better.
Okay.
Even if it's small.
Yeah.
Hey, it'd be nice if you cut the vegetables a little smaller. It's okay.
What's
I'll
the
do
most
that.
ridiculous feedback you've received?
It's not feedback, but the most ridiculous feedback I received is I had one customer. If you want to do macro breakdowns, you know what? I'll do that.
Oh wow.
But it's too much when you want me to break down the macros of a teaspoon of paprika. If you think that
Taking
matters,
it too far.
yeah, that's a little too much.
Yeah.
So you made a difference of 2 calories. Good job.
Yeah. So flat rate, and then because food costs have gone up dramatically over the last year or two.
Yes and no. What people don't realize is raw groceries are very inexpensive.
Okay.
Buying raw groceries is not expensive at all. It's turning the groceries into food. That's where the problem is.
Okay.
I also have an advantage because I run a food service business. I can shop at Restaurant Depot.
Yeah.
So when I buy chicken breast, I will buy 40 pounds of chicken breast at a time.
Gotcha.
I freeze it, put it in 2-pound bags,
So you're
which
not
is the standard
going
recipe size.
You're not going to King Soopers and getting
Yep.
a packet of chicken.
Yep.
A million little packets. You're just
Exactly.
buying in bulk. Okay.
Yep. So my chicken costs $1.77 a pound.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't even know what it is at the grocery store. $5. a pound.
It's like $3 a pound for
Okay.
chicken.
Yeah. I think I bought it for $3.99 the other day or something.
Yep.
So That's great. Cool. Well, man, this has been great. Love your business.
Appreciate
love
it.
your entrepreneurship. Where can people find you if they want to find out more information, if they want to, reach out to you and, talk to you about booking your services?
So my website is chefcurriescuisine.com.
With an S.
Yep, CHEF as in Frank, CURRYS as in Sam.
We'll put it up on the screen for you.
Cool, perfect.
Yeah.
Cuisine. And I've just recently gotten my website fixed.
Okay,
Because I had
good.
some malware issues. It's like I did some updates. Like, okay, everything's back to normal.
Okay.
Because that was hurting me for a while.
Yeah.
And then on that website, make sure you go to the About the Chef section and click on that link because you're going to see the best picture ever. There's a picture of me at 3 years old with a stupid bowl haircut, goofing off with my grandparents.
Love it. We've all had that haircut.
Yep, and
So.
that picture is why I'm a chef.
Oh, cool. That's great. That's a good place to end it, man.
Cool.
Thank you
Perfect.
for your time.
Oh, no, happy to be here.
Love your story.
Great talking to you.
Love your passion for food. And I really appreciate your time.
Nice. Thank you very much. You have a good day.
You too.